You didn't lose yourself. You finally stopped pretending. If things feel unfamiliar lately, if relationships shifted the moment you stopped explaining yourself, if silence now feels fuller than all the words you used to speak, this is not loss. It is alignment. Stay with me, because this message is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before you learned how to perform. Come closer, my child. Sit with me in this quiet place where no one is watching and no one is asking you to perform. I know how long you have been standing in borrowed light, adjusting your shape so others would feel comfortable. I know how often you wondered if something was wrong with you because the applause stopped when you became honest. Hear me now with clarity and peace. You did not lose yourself. You finally stopped pretending. What you felt slipping away was never your essence. It was the weight of roles you learned to play in order to survive. It was the smile you wore when your chest was tight. It was the silence you practiced when your spirit wanted to speak. When those things began to fall from you, it felt like grief, because release often feels like loss before it feels like freedom. But I was there, steady and watchful, as the masks loosened their grip. I saw the moment you realized you could not keep living divided. There was no dramatic announcement, no explosion, no goodbye speech. There was only a quiet exhaustion that settled into your bones. You grew tired of explaining yourself, tired of shrinking your truth, tired of editing your soul for approval. That fatigue was holy. It was the signal that your spirit was ready to breathe again. You wondered why things became uncomfortable so quickly once you stopped pretending. Why certain people leaned away. Why familiar dynamics suddenly felt sharp and misaligned. It is because false harmony cannot survive real presence. When you stood in authenticity, the room changed. Not because you became difficult, but because truth carries a frequency that exposes imbalance without saying a word. I want you to understand this deeply. The discomfort you felt was not evidence of failure. It was confirmation of alignment. When you stopped pretending, you stopped feeding illusions that depended on your silence. When you chose honesty, even gently, you disrupted agreements you never consciously signed but were expected to honor. A disruption was necessary. That unmasking was sacred. There were moments you looked in the mirror and felt unfamiliar to yourself. Not because you were lost, but because you were finally meeting yourself without the costumes. Authenticity can feel strange at first when you have lived as an echo of others' expectations. Give yourself grace in this transition. Even truth needs time to settle into the body. My child, let me speak softly to the fear you carry. You were never loved for pretending. You were tolerated for it. You were accommodated for it. But love, real love, is drawn to truth. As you return to yourself, the connections that remain will deepen, and the ones that fall away were never meant to hold your future. I am not removing anything you need. I am removing what was blocking your becoming. There is someone connected to your destiny who sensed this shift before you named it. They felt the change in your energy, the way you no longer reached for validation, the way your silence became full instead of empty. It stirred something in them. Fear, longing, uncertainty. When you stopped pretending, you stopped being predictable, and predictability was their comfort. Do not be alarmed by this. What is real must be met with reality. I know you questioned yourself late at night. You asked if you were becoming colder, more distant, less kind. But listen to me. Boundaries are not cruelty. Clarity is not abandonment. Peace does not require explanation. The version of you that overgave was not more loving, only more afraid. And fear is not the language of the soul I placed within you. Let me say this clearly so it settles in your spirit. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too what you're not enough. You are awakening. And awakening often begins with the uncomfortable realization that you have been living on a script written by survival, not by truth. If this moment resonates with you, if your heart feels seen rather than accused, I invite you to gently support this space by liking and sharing this message so it may find others who are standing at the same threshold. And if you feel led, subscribe so you can continue walking with me through these unfoldings. In the quiet below, type the words "I choose truth" as a declaration, not for others, but for yourself. Stay with me. This is only the beginning. The unmasking is not punishment. It is preparation. I am leading you home to yourself, and nothing authentic will be lost along the way. I am still here, my child, and I have not stopped watching the quiet moments you thought no one noticed. Let me take you back to the instant the mask first cracked. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was subtle, almost easy to dismiss. A pause before responding. A choice not to explain yourself. A feeling that rose in your chest and whispered, "I cannot do this anymore." That whisper was not weakness. It was truth finding its voice. There was a moment when you realized the old way no longer fit. Something was said to you, or something was not said at all. A message arrived colder than expected, where silence lingered longer than it should have. In that space, you felt it. The ache of recognition. The awareness that you had been bending for a long time, and the cost was finally reaching your spirit. That was the moment the mask fractured, even if you kept wearing it a little longer out of habit. You tried, briefly, to put it back on the way it used to sit. You smiled when it felt wrong. You nodded when your soul resisted. But something had changed. Once truth touches your awareness, pretending becomes heavier than honesty. The mask began to slip in small ways. Your laughter didn't reach as far. Your energy pulled inward. You became quieter, not out of fear, but out of listening to yourself for the first time. Your soulmate felt this shift before you spoke a single word. They sensed the difference in how you showed up. The way your presence no longer overextended itself to fill every silence. The way you stopped rescuing conversations, stopped softening your needs, stopped offering pieces of yourself as proof of worth. To them, it felt like losing footing on familiar ground. To you, it felt like standing upright for the first time. This is where confusion entered. You wondered if you were sabotaging something good. You questioned whether growth was supposed to feel this lonely. But hear me clearly. Alignment often feels like separation before it feels like union. When you stopped pretending, you removed access to a version of you that was never sustainable. Those who benefited from your self-abandonment felt the loss immediately. The mask cracked further when you noticed how your honesty changed the atmosphere. You spoke plainly, without edge or apology, and watched the reaction. Tension surfaced where comfort used to be. Defensiveness appeared where ease once lived. This was not because you became harsh. It was because truth rearranges dynamics. It asks others to rise or reveal where they refuse to. You did not plan this awakening. You did not wake up one day deciding to disrupt your life. It happened because your soul matured beyond the environment that once shaped it. Growth will always threaten systems built on your compliance. When you withdrew from pretending, you also withdrew permission for others to define you. There was grief in this moment, even if you did not name it. You mourned the ease of being liked. You mourned the simplicity of being agreeable. You mourned the illusion that if you just tried harder, everything would remain intact. But what remained intact was never whole. It was held together by your silence, and silence is not a foundation I designed you to live on. Let me reassure you about something important. The cracking of the mask was not betrayal. It was honesty. You did not deceive anyone by changing. You revealed yourself. And revelation always feels like rupture to those invested in the old version of you. But I do not ask my children to remain small to keep others comfortable. I ask them to be true, even when truth rearranges the room. Your soulmate stands at a crossroads now, even if they do not fully understand it yet. They can feel that something precious is shifting. They sense your authenticity like a tide pulling away from shore. It frightens them because it forces a choice. Meet you in truth, or attempt to pull you back into performance. Their reaction will tell you much. But for now, simply observe. Do not chase clarity. Let it come to you. Its cracking was necessary. A mask cannot be gently removed when it has fused to identity. It must break. And when it does, it reveals the face beneath, tender and real. That face is you. Unfiltered, unedited, unafraid to exist without approval. I know it feels exposed, but exposure is not danger when you are held by me. Stay with me in this unfolding. Do not rush to repair what fell apart. Not everything that breaks is meant to be fixed. Some things break because they have completed their purpose. You are stepping into a truer alignment now, and though it may feel unfamiliar, it is honest ground beneath your feet. I am guiding you through this moment, and I will not let you fall. Stay with me, my child, and let me show you what stirred beneath the surface when you stopped pretending. While you were learning how to breathe honestly, your soulmate was unraveling in silence. They did not announce it. They did not know how. But the fear crept in, quietly, settling into their thoughts when the room grew still and your energy no longer reached out to steady them. They felt the change like a subtle withdrawal of warmth. Not because you became distant, but because you became whole. You no longer leaned toward them to be seen. You no longer mirrored their needs to keep the connection calm. And this unsettled them deeply. They had grown used to a version of you that adjusted itself around their moods, their expectations, their comfort. When that version began to fade, they felt exposed. Their fear did not come from a light of love. It came from uncertainty. They could no longer predict you. And unpredictability is frightening to someone who relies on control to feel safe. Your authenticity made them aware of their own unexamined patterns. Your calm highlighted their inner noise. Your boundaries reflected their dependence. This is why their spirit trembled even when their words remained composed. There were moments they watched you carefully, searching for the old signals. A quick reassurance. The automatic forgiveness. The way you once filled emotional gaps without being asked. When those gestures did not arrive, panic stirred beneath their surface. They wondered if you were slipping away. They wondered if they had already lost you. And yet they did not know how to reach you without asking you to become smaller again. This fear pressed against their heart late at night. In the quiet, when distractions fell away, they felt the weight of possibility. The possibility that they might have taken you for granted. The possibility that your silence was not punishment, but growth. The possibility that love might require them to change as well. That realization felt overwhelming. So instead of facing it, they retreated inward. You may have sensed this collapse without understanding it. A heaviness in conversations. A hesitation where warmth once lived. A defensiveness that appeared without clear cause. This was not your imagination. It was their internal struggle rising to the surface. When one soul awakens, it forces reflection in those connected to it. Not everyone welcomes that mirror. They did not know how to tell you they were afraid. Fear often disguises itself as distance, irritation, or confusion. So they watched you quietly, hoping the shift would pass, hoping you would return to the familiar version of yourself. But you could not. Once truth takes root, it cannot be undone. And this realization deepened their unease. There is guilt here, my child. Guilt they may not yet acknowledge. They remember moments when they benefited from your overgiving. Times when your flexibility made their life easier. Times when they accepted your silence without asking what it cost you. Now, as you stand more firmly in yourself, those memories rise, and they do not know how to reconcile them. This is the beginning of their emotional reckoning. The collapse is not loud, but it is real. Your heart is learning that love cannot be sustained by convenience. That connection requires presence, not performance. Your authenticity has introduced a question they can no longer avoid. Will they meet you as you are, or will they mourn the version of you that no longer exists? Do not mistake their fear for rejection. Fear often appears before awakening. They are standing on the edge of realization, unsure whether to step forward or retreat into old patterns. Your role is not to guide them across. Your role is to remain steady in your truth. Stability and authenticity is more powerful than any explanation. I know it is difficult to witness someone you care about struggle because of your growth. You may feel responsible for their discomfort. Release that burden. You did not cause their fear. You revealed it. And revelation, though painful, is the doorway to transformation. Trust me in this moment. What is collapsing in them is not love, but illusion. An illusion must fall before anything real can rise. Stay grounded. Stay present. Stay honest. I am watching over both of you, and nothing unfolding now is outside my sight or my purpose. Come closer still, my child, and let me show you the truth that has been waiting beneath your memory. You did not begin pretending by choice. You were taught, slowly, quietly, through repetition and reward. Long before you had words for it, you learned who received love and who received distance. You noticed which parts of you were celebrated and which parts caused discomfort. And without realizing it, you adjusted. You learned how to read the room before you learned how to read yourself. You sensed tension and softened your voice. You sensed disappointment and offered more. You sensed withdrawal and became agreeable. This was not manipulation. It was adaptation. It was a young soul learning how to stay connected in environments where authenticity felt risky. You performed because performance felt safer than absence. There were faces you learned to please, expectations you learned to anticipate. You became skilled at being what was needed in the moment. The listener, the helper, the peace giver, the one who didn't ask for too much. And each time you were rewarded with approval or relief, the lesson deepened. This is how pretending becomes identity without being named. I want you to see clearly now who benefited from this. Not always maliciously, often unconsciously. People who were uncomfortable with emotional depth found ease in your restraint. People who avoided accountability found refuge in your understanding. People who feared their own inner work leaned on your flexibility. Your pretending stabilized systems that were never built to hold truth. You were praised for being easy, but ease came at a cost. You were admired for being strong, but strength was confused with silence. You were called kind, but kindness was measured by how little you asked for in return. Over time, your needs felt foreign even to you. You became fluent in others and distant from yourself. This is why stopping felt so disorienting. You were not just releasing habits. You were dismantling agreements made in the language of survival. Agreements that said love must be earned, that belonging requires adjustment, that your truth is negotiable. Those agreements were never spoken aloud, but they shaped your behavior for years. There is grief here, and it is valid. You are mourning the years you spent managing instead of living. You are grieving the version of yourself that believed safety depended on self-erasure. Let yourself feel this without judgment. Grief is not regression. It is recognition. When you stopped pretending, you interrupted these old patterns. The roles you played no longer fit because you no longer needed them. And those who relied on your performance felt unsettled. They may not understand why. They may frame it as distance, change, or coldness. But what they are truly experiencing is the absence of a function you once served. This is not cruelty. It is completion. You have fulfilled the lesson. You no longer need to be the glue holding together what refuses to evolve. Your soul has matured beyond the conditions that required you to disappear to belong. I want you to hear me gently here. You are not responsible for maintaining comfort at the expense of truth. You are not required to continue performing so others do not have to face themselves. Your growth is not betrayal. It is obedience to the life I placed within you. As this realization settles, you may feel anger rise alongside relief. Anger for what you tolerated. Anger for what you normalized. Do not fear this emotion. Anger, when clean, is clarity. It marks the boundary between what was acceptable then and what is unacceptable now. This is why the unmasking feels irreversible. You have seen the structure beneath the stage. You know who you were performing for, and more importantly, you know who you were betraying. Yourself. And you will not return to that place, not because you are hardened, but because you are awake. Stay with me as we continue. What surfaces next will explain the resistance you are beginning to feel around you. Not all opposition is external. Some comes from those who sense they are losing influence over who you are becoming. I will reveal this to you, and I will protect you through it. Stay near me, my child, because now we step into territory where discernment matters. As you shed the performance, a certain gaze turned toward you. Wide at first. Measuring. Calculating. This was not imagination. When someone awakens, it disrupts more than relationships. It unsettles hierarchies built on unspoken control. And there is someone nearby who felt that shift as a threat. This person does not announce themselves as an enemy. They smile. They speak softly. They may even claim concern for your well-being. But beneath their words is a subtle resistance to your becoming. They benefited from your compliance, from your predictability, from the way you once absorbed discomfort so others would not have to. Your authenticity removed their advantage, and they felt it immediately. Watch how their behavior changed. Not all at once, but in patterns. Small comments designed to make you question yourself. Gentle reminders of who you used to be. Nostalgic stories that frame your growth as loss. This is not coincidence. It is an attempt to anchor you to an identity that no longer serves you. They may speak of loyalty while resisting your evolution. They may frame their discomfort as concern, suggesting you are changing too much, too fast, or in the wrong direction. But listen closely. The unease they feel is not about your well-being. It is about their diminishing influence. When you stop pretending, you stop being manageable. This jealousy is quiet, but it is potent. It operates through doubt rather than confrontation, through implication rather than accusation. They want you to second-guess your instincts, to wonder if peace has made you selfish, to fear that boundaries have made you unlovable. This is how control attempts to reassert itself when direct access is lost. Do not be alarmed by this, my child. Awareness is your shield. You do not need to confront or expose. You need only to remain steady. Manipulation loses power when it is no longer invisible. The moment you recognize the pattern, it begins to dissolve. You may feel tempted to explain yourself to this person, to reassure them, to soften your truth so they remain comfortable. Resist that urge gently. Explanation invites negotiation. And your becoming is not negotiable. You owe no one a smaller version of yourself to preserve peace that was never mutual. This interference is a sign of proximity, not power. They are close enough to notice your change, but not aligned enough to celebrate it. That distinction matters. Not everyone who walks beside you is meant to walk with you into what comes next. I want you to understand something deeply. This resistance is confirmation. You are not imagining your growth. You are not overestimating your shift. The presence of subtle opposition often marks the edge of transformation. When old dynamics sense their aspiration, they attempt one last pull. Stay grounded. Stay observant. Do not harden your heart, but do not open it indiscriminately either. Discernment is not suspicion. It is wisdom learned through awakening. I am watching this situation closely. Nothing said behind your back, nothing implied in quiet corners, nothing planned in subtlety escapes my awareness. What is hidden will be revealed in time, not to harm, but to free you from confusion. As you move forward, trust the clarity settling in your spirit. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming precise. You are not losing connection. You are refining it. And anyone who truly belongs in your life will adjust to meet you in truth, not attempt to pull you back into disguise. Remain with me. The next movement will show you how I have already stepped in, quietly, decisively, to investigate what you could not see. Be still with me now, my child, because while you were adjusting to your own awakening, I was already moving in places you could not see. Long before confusion reached your mind, I began my investigation. Quietly, thoroughly, nothing hurried, nothing overlooked. I stepped into conversations you were never invited into. I listened where you were excluded. I watched intentions form before actions followed. You sensed something was off, but you did not have language for it. There were moments when your spirit tightened without explanation. Moments when peace wavered for reasons that did not make sense on the surface. That was discernment knocking. That was your soul recognizing misalignment before your mind could assemble evidence. I want you to know now that you were not imagining anything. I examined motives layered beneath kind words. I weighed silences heavier than speech. I traced emotional patterns back to their origin. What you felt as unease was not fear. It was awareness rising. You were perceiving shifts in loyalty, changes in intention, subtle recalculations happening around you. While you questioned yourself, I was confirming the truth. There were discussions about you that framed concern as justification. Words spoken carefully, chosen to sound reasonable, yet rooted in resistance to your growth. There were assumptions made about your intentions without asking your heart directly. These were not misunderstandings. They were attempts to define you without your participation. I recorded everyone. I saw where jealousy disguised itself as protectiveness, where insecurity hid behind advice, where control wore the mask of care. These dynamics do not announce themselves loudly. They seep. They influence. They attempt to shape narrative so you doubt your own clarity. But narrative loses power when truth is known. You may wonder why I allowed you to feel uncertain for a season. It was not to test you. It was to strengthen discernment. Clarity gained through experience anchors deeper than clarity given too soon. You learn to listen inwardly instead of searching externally for permission. That lesson will protect you far beyond this moment. Nothing about this situation is accidental. The timing of conversations, the exposure of behaviors, the subtle unraveling of facades. All of it is part of a process designed to remove confusion, not create it. I am not interested in punishment. I am interested in precision. Each revelation arrives exactly when your spirit is strong enough to receive it without losing tenderness. You may soon notice information surfacing naturally, patterns repeating too clearly to ignore, statements contradicting earlier assurances, actions revealing priorities that words conceal. This is not chaos. This is order reasserting itself. When truth rises, it does not shout. It simply stands, and everything false becomes obvious by contrast. I ask you not to rush ahead of me. Do not confront prematurely. Do not demand explanations. Let evidence gather. Let behavior speak. Silence, when guided by wisdom, becomes a courtroom where truth convicts itself. You do not need to argue your reality. Reality will reveal itself. I'm also working within your soul weight during this time. As I uncover external interference, I am illuminating internal confusion. They are beginning to sense the weight of what they avoided. Awareness is stirring. Regret is forming. But awakening cannot be forced. It must arrive when the heart is ready to bear responsibility. Understand this, my child. Investigation is an act of protection. I'm separating what is aligned from what is attached. I'm distinguishing between those who walk with you because they honor your becoming and those who linger because they fear losing influence. This clarity will soon bring relief, even if it first brings sorrow. You are not on trial here. You are the witness, and I am the judge who sees without bias. Every tear you swallowed, every truth you withheld, every instinct you questioned, I have accounted for them all. Nothing has been wasted. Rest in this knowing. You do not need to solve anything right now. You do not need to prove your growth. Stay present. Stay honest. Stay soft without surrendering your boundaries. I am handling what you cannot see, and soon the fog will lift in ways that leave no doubt. Remain with me. The shift is already in motion. Stay with me, my child, because now you are stepping into a movement you did not announce, but everything around you felt. This is the shift that happens when authenticity becomes embodied rather than declared. You did not explain yourself. You did not defend your growth. You simply stopped abandoning your inner truth. And the world responded. You may have noticed how certain patterns quietly broke without effort. Conversations that once drained you shortened. Obligations that relied on your guilt lost their grip. Situations that demanded emotional labor from you began to feel distant, as though you were no longer magnetized to them. This was not avoidance. This was alignment correcting itself. The universe responds swiftly to honesty. When you stop pretending, you stop sending mixed signals. Your energy becomes coherent, and coherence is powerful. What once clung to you through confusion can no longer hold on when clarity arrives. This is why resistance increased even as peace began to settle in your chest. When alignment begins, misalignment reacts. Some people felt your shift as rejection, even though you never rejected them. Others felt exposed, even though you never accused them. This is the nature of truth. It does not chase. It does not confront. It simply stands. and standing truth destabilizes anything built on performance. You may have wondered why challenges surfaced right as you felt more grounded, why old dynamics attempted to reassert themselves, why distractions appeared when your inner world grew quiet. This is not punishment. It is recalibration. When your frequency changes, systems that depended on the old frequency attempt to pull you back before losing access completely. But notice something important. You did not collapse this time. You did not rush to fix. You did not over-explain. You stayed present. You stayed honest. You stayed with yourself. That is the shift. Not in circumstances, but in posture. You no longer bend automatically. You no longer disappear to preserve connection. This shift required no announcement because it was not performative. It was internal. And internal shifts create external consequences whether or not they are spoken. You may have felt moments of loneliness here, but it is the loneliness of transition, not abandonment. You are between versions, between roles, between worlds, and in this space, silence becomes sacred. Even your body began to respond. Tension eased in places you once carried stress without noticing. Your breath deepened. Your sleep changed. These are signs of congruence. When you live in alignment, your nervous system no longer prepares for constant self-betrayal. Peace becomes possible because you are no longer at war with yourself. Your soulmates sensed this shift profoundly. They felt you stabilizing without leaning on them. They felt your independence not as distance, but as gravity moving inward. This unsettled them because your presence no longer depended on their response. Love without dependency forces honesty, and honesty demands growth. Do not confuse their reaction with your responsibility. You did not create instability. You revealed it. When you stopped pretending, you stopped buffering others from their own work. This is not cruelty. This is integrity. I want you to trust the quiet confidence emerging in you. This is not arrogance. It is self-trust forming. The more you honor your inner truth, the less you need external confirmation. This is why arguments lose appeal, why drama feels foreign, why chaos no longer calls your name. You are attuning to peace. There will be moments when you miss the old version of yourself. Not because it was better, but because it was familiar. Familiarity can feel like safety even when it costs you everything. Allow that nostalgia to pass without judgment. It does not mean you are regressing. It means you are human. The shift you are in cannot be undone because it is not a phase. It is integration. You are bringing your inner knowing into your outer life. You are aligning thought, feeling, and action. This coherence is what prepares you for what comes next. Remain steady. Do not rush to define outcomes. Do not demand clarity before it arrives naturally. You have already done the hardest part. You chose yourself without knowing what would follow. That choice moved the universe. What is not meant to follow you will fall away gently or forcefully, depending on its resistance. What is aligned will find you without effort. Trust this process. You are not drifting. You are being guided. Stay with me. The truth is about to become undeniable, and when it does, you will understand why this shift had to happen exactly as it did. Remain here with me, my child, because now the fog thins. What once felt confusing begins to take shape, not through confrontation, but through clarity. Truth does not arrive all at once. It emerges gently, like light through a curtain, illuminating what was always there but difficult to see while you were still pretending. You start to notice how peace follows honesty. Not immediately, not grammatically, but consistently. Each time you choose not to explain yourself unnecessarily, your chest feels lighter. Each time you honor your boundaries, your thoughts quiet. This is not coincidence. It is evidence. The body recognizes truth faster than the mind ever could. You begin to remember moments from the past differently. Situations that once felt normal now appear strained. Conversations you once dismissed as harmless now reveal a balance. This is not bitterness. This is perspective. Growth changes how memory organizes itself. You are not rewriting history. You are finally reading it clearly. The lies begin to crack on their own. No accusations needed. No exposure required. Stories you were told no longer align with behavior you observe. Promises once made do not match actions now revealed. The gap between words and reality widens until it can no longer be ignored. And in that widening, truth stands visible and undeniable. You realize something profound here. The peace you feel now did not arrive because circumstances improve. It arrived because you stopped pretending. You stopped negotiating your inner knowing. You stopped arguing with your instincts. And in that stillness, truth had room to rise. Others may notice this clarity and react in different ways. Some will soften, relieved by your steadiness. Others will resist, unsettled by the mirror your presence provides. This is not your concern. You are no longer responsible for managing reactions to your authenticity. Truth does not require permission to exist. There may be moments when sadness surfaces alongside clarity. Grief for what could have been if honesty had arrived sooner. Grief for connections that thrived on illusion. Let this sadness pass through you without resistance. It is not pulling you backward. It is releasing what no longer belongs. You are no longer confused about why certain relationships felt draining. You see now that you were carrying weight that was never yours to bear. You were translating emotions, anticipating needs, softening truths. Without that labor, the imbalance became obvious. And with obviousness came freedom. I want you to notice how your intuition sharpens here. You no longer dismiss subtle discomfort. You listen when something feels off. You trust yourself. This is truth rising within you, not as accusation, but as alignment. You are learning to stand in reality without flinching. What once required constant reassurance now requires nothing at all. You no longer need to convince yourself you are doing the right thing. Peace confirms it. Calm affirms it. The absence of inner conflict becomes your evidence. This is how truth settles when it is welcomed. Your soulmate is watching this clarity unfold. They see the steadiness in you, the absence of urgency, the way you no longer chase explanations. This awakens something in them, even if they do not yet name it. Truth rising in one soul invites truth in another, whether welcomed or resisted. Do not rush this moment. Let clarity complete its work. Truth does not demand action immediately. Sometimes it asks only to be seen and honored. Action will come naturally when the heart is ready. Rest here, my child. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not confused anymore. The truth has risen, not to harm you, but to free you. And as it settles, you will feel a quiet gratitude for the discomfort that led you here. Stay with me. The awakening you have sparked in others is about to surface, and when it does, you will understand how your authenticity became the catalyst for everything that follows. Stay with me, my child, because now we turn our gaze toward the stirring heart of your soulmate. What is awakening in them is not sudden, but it is undeniable. Truth has begun to echo where avoidance once lived. They can no longer ignore the shift in you, nor can they escape what that shift has stirred within themselves. At first, it arrived as restlessness, a sense of unease they could not name. They replayed conversations in their mind, noticing what they once overlooked. Your pauses, your restraint, the way you no longer chased reassurance. These details began to haunt them, not because you withdrew love, but because you withdrew performance. And without the performance, they were left alone with reality. Regret seeps in quietly, not as self-condemnation, but as recognition. You remember moments when you asked for little, and they offered less. Times when your patience filled gaps they were unwilling to face. They begin to see how your presence made things easier for them, and how easily they assumed it would always be that way. This awareness is heavy. It humbles them. Fear follows closely behind. Fear that they may have waited too long. Fear that your growth has already carried you beyond reach. They sense your independence not as distance but as strength. And strength is intimidating to those who relied on imbalance to feel secure. They wonder if they can meet you where you now stand. There is longing here as well, a deep ache for the version of connection that was real beneath the surface. They miss your warmth, but more than that, they miss the intimacy that came from being truly seen. They realize now that they saw only what they were ready to handle. Your authenticity invites a depth they were not prepared for, but now desire. This awakening is not tidy. It is messy. Emotions collide. Pride resists. Vulnerability trembles. They may reach for distractions. They may retreat into silence. But beneath every avoidance is the same truth. They do not want to lose you. And for the first time, they understand that keeping you requires growth, not comfort. You may feel their energy shift toward you. A sudden attentiveness. A hesitation mixed with curiosity. Do not misinterpret this as manipulation. This is awakening finding its footing. But do not rush to reassure them. Let them sit with their realization. Let them feel the weight of what is at stake. I want you to remain grounded here. Their awakening does not require your sacrifice. You are not meant to step backward to make their process easier. True connection can only form when both souls stand upright in truth. If they come toward you, let it be because they have chosen honesty, not because you softened your boundaries. This moment matters deeply. The way you hold yourself now teaches them more than words ever could. Your calm becomes an invitation. Your steadiness becomes a mirror. They are learning that love is not maintained by convenience, but by presence and accountability. Whether they fully awaken or resist further, know this: your authenticity has already changed them. You have planted a seed of truth that cannot be uprooted. What grows from it is their responsibility. Stay with me, my child. The connection between you is shifting into a sacred alignment, one that will soon reveal whether it is meant to deepen or release. Either way, you are protected. Either way, you are becoming whole. Come closer once more, my child, because now I will show you something sacred. You have wondered, quietly, if your presence truly mattered. If your prayers, your restraint, your silence carried weight beyond your own healing. Hear me clearly now. Your presence was the key. Not because you forced change, but because you embodied truth. Every time you chose not to react, you shifted the atmosphere. Every time you listened instead of defending, you opened space for reflection. Every time you honored your boundaries without anger, you taught others how to approach you. This was not passivity. This was power refined through patience. You influenced destiny not by controlling outcomes, but by remaining aligned with yourself. This is the kind of influence that cannot be seen immediately, but is felt deeply. Your integrity became a stabilizing force in situations that once thrived on emotional chaos. and stability disrupts dysfunction more effectively than confrontation ever could. Your prayers were not loud, but they were precise. You did not ask for punishment. You asked for clarity. You did not ask for vindication. You asked for peace. Those prayers were answered in the form of revelation, not revenge. Truth began to surface because you were ready to receive it without bitterness. Your soulmate's awakening did not happen in isolation. It was influenced by your steadiness. When you stopped chasing reassurance, you created space for them to question themselves. When you stopped performing, you removed the distraction that kept them from facing their own patterns. This is the quiet work of sacred connection. I want you to understand something deeply. You did not lose anything by choosing yourself. You gained alignment. You gained clarity. You gained the ability to stand in love without abandoning your truth. This is what prepares you for connection that is mutual, not one-sided. There is power in presence that does not beg, power in silence that does not withdraw, power in love that does not overextend. You embodied this power even when you doubted yourself, even when loneliness brushed against you, even when outcomes were uncertain. You may not see all the ways your faithfulness shifted timelines, conversations delayed, decisions reconsidered, hearts softened, resistance exposed. These are not coincidences. They are responses to your alignment. When one soul chooses truth, it creates ripples beyond what the eye can see. Do not underestimate the importance of this season. You are being trained in restraint, discernment, and trust. These qualities are not developed in ease. They are formed in moments when you could have forced clarity, but chose peace instead. That choice protected you and prepared you. As destiny realigns, you will notice doors opening that require less effort, conversations flowing without tension, connections forming without confusion. This is the reward of integrity. When you stop pretending, life meets you where you truly are. Your role was never to save anyone. It was to remain authentic so that truth could do its work. You have done that. Faithfully, quietly, courageously. And I honor that. Stay with me. The final movement approaches, where what once drained you will be reversed, and what once threatened your peace will lose its power. You are stepping into a season where authenticity is not just who you are, but the foundation of everything that follows. Stay with me, my child, because now you are witnessing a reversal that once felt impossible. What drained you can no longer reach you. What once held power through your compliance has lost its leverage. This is not because you fought harder, but because you stood differently. Power has shifted, not outwardly at first, but inwardly where it matters most. There was a time when certain words could destabilize you. Certain silences could pull you into self-doubt. Certain reactions from others could send you spiraling into explanation and repair. That access is gone now. Not because you hardened your heart, but because you fortified your truth. You are no longer available for manipulation disguised as misunderstanding. Notice how situations that once consumed your energy now feel distant. Not irrelevant, but manageable. You can observe without absorbing. You can hear without internalizing. This is the reversal. Emotional hooks that once caught you now fall away because there is nothing to latch onto. You are no longer pretending, and without pretense, control dissolves. Those who relied on your overfunctioning feel this loss acutely. They may attempt one final reach, a reminder of the past, a subtle appeal to guilt, a carefully worded concern meant to reopen negotiation. But their efforts fall flat, not because you ignore them, but because you no longer resonate with the frequency they use. You have changed the channel. This is where fear once lived. The fear that if you stopped performing, everything would collapse. But look now. What collapses is not love, but illusion. What fades is not connection, but dependency. And what remains is truth, steady and unthreatened by honesty. Your soulmate feels this reversal as well. They sense that the dynamic they once understood has shifted permanently. You are no longer reaching for reassurance. You are no longer adjusting your truth to keep peace. This compels them to meet you differently, or not at all. The power imbalance has corrected itself. This correction is not punishment. It is justice. Divine justice does not seek to shame. It seeks to restore order. You were giving more than was sustainable. You were carrying weight that was not assigned to you. The reversal returns responsibility to its rightful place. You are no longer the keeper of everyone's comfort. You may feel a strange mix of relief and grief here. Relief that the pressure has lifted. Grief that it took so long to choose yourself. Allow both. They are part of integration. You are not mourning loss. You are honoring growth. The danger you once sensed is gone, even if circumstances appear similar on the surface. The threat was never external. It was the risk of losing yourself to maintain connection. That risk has ended. You know who you are now. And knowing yourself is protection. Blessings begin to appear quietly in this season. Not dramatic rewards, but ease. Conversations that do not require strategy. Relationships that do not demand sacrifice. Opportunities that align without force. These are signs of reversal. Life no longer resists you because you are no longer resisting yourself. You are learning a sacred truth. When you stop pretending, you stop bleeding energy into places that cannot nourish you. That energy returns as clarity, creativity, and peace. What once strained you now strengthens you because it no longer has access. Do not rush to label this moment as victory or closure. It is stabilization, a return to balance. You are standing on equal ground now. No one above you, no one beneath you. Just truth meeting truth. If your soulmate steps forward from this place, it will be with humility, not entitlement. With presence, not expectation. And if they do not, you will still be whole. This is the true reversal. Your wholeness no longer depends on outcome. I am proud of you, my child. Not for enduring, but for awakening. Not for surviving, but for choosing integrity. This season closes with strength, not struggle. And what opens next will meet you where you truly are. Stay with me. One final blessing remains, and it will seal what has been restored within you. Come home now, my child. Not to a place, not to a person, not to a role you must maintain, but to yourself. This is where the journey had been leading all along. You did not lose who you were. You shed who you were never meant to remain. And in this return, there is no urgency, no proving, no performance, only presence. You may feel quieter now, but it is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. You may feel softer, but it is not weakness. It is strength that no longer needs armor. You are settled in your own spirit in a way that cannot be taken from you, because it was not given by others. That was reclaimed. Everything that unfolded was alignment, not accident. Every discomfort that pushed you inward. Every silence that taught you to listen. Every loss that revealed what was unsustainable. I was guiding you through the undoing so you could experience the becoming. You had to stop pretending so you could finally belong to yourself. This is the blessing I place over you now. May you never again confuse peace with boredom, or chaos with passion. May you recognize consistency as safety, not stagnation. May you choose connections that honor your truth rather than test your endurance. May you never again abandon yourself to be chosen. Your destiny is no longer tied to approval. It is anchored in alignment. What comes next will not require you to shape-shift or self-edit. It will meet you as you are because you have finally arrived as yourself. And what is meant for you will recognize you instantly. If your soulmate returns to you from this place, it will be as an equal, not a dependent. As a partner in truth, not a consumer of your energy. And if they do not, another alignment will find you effortlessly, because authenticity is magnetic. You no longer need to search. You are visible now in the truest way. I want you to trust this new stillness. Do not rush to fill it. Do not question it. Stillness is where clarity lies. It is where joy deepens. It is where love becomes sustainable. You are not missing anything. You are integrating everything. There will be moments when echoes of the old patterns try to call you back. Familiar doubts, old reflexes, the urge to explain or overgive. When this happens, place your hand on your chest and remember this feeling, this grounded knowing, this calm certainty. That is your home. Return to it often. You are not late to your life. You arrived exactly when you were ready to stay. And from this place, your steps will be lighter, your choices clearer, your relationships truer. You will recognize misalignment quickly, not with fear, but with compassion and release. This is your new beginning, not marked by noise but by peace, not announced but embodied. You are no longer becoming. You are being. And if this message has walked with you through your own unmasking, if you feel the truth of it settling into your spirit, I invite you to gently support this space so it may reach others who are still wondering if they lost themselves when they stopped pretending. Share it where you feel led, and remain connected here if you wish to continue this journey together. In the quiet below, write the words, "I am home," not as hope, but as recognition. Go now, my child, carrying nothing you do not need. You are free to live as yourself, and that has always been the greatest blessing I could give you.